mic, right? We just have to speak up.
Speak up, yeah.
Larry, good to go.
Okay. All right. I'd like to welcome everybody to our February PAB board meeting. Thank you for watching in person and online. We'll start off with introductions.
Sherry Walker Ford, Interim Executive Director.
Rabbi Dora Tuttle, Northwest Council seat.
The Reverend Keith Patterson, Alliance seat.
Arlene Brown, the Alliance seat, Vice Chair. And I want to thank you all for taking the time to come and learn about what we do and help us share in making this community safer.
Larry Knox, Chair, and Northeast seat.
Yvonne Wilson, Council seat. Was it Southwest? I guess somewhere.
Daniel Cadet, Alliance seat.
You're sweet enough, Mary.
Bill Clark is out of town. Let us know, so he's excused. The mayor's appointee. All right. First matter on the agenda is the approval of our meeting minutes. So they were emailed out a couple times. Any additions, subtractions, changes to the minutes?
Well, hearing no objections or changes that need to be made, I'd like to move that the minutes be accepted as sent out.
Second.
All in favor? That's unanimous. Minutes are approved. They'll be up on the website shortly. All right, Sherry, staff report.
Yes, a few things. So we had the privilege of presenting, or sort of representing the PAB to the Department of Recreation and Human Services under Commissioner Dr. Shirley Green. She brought her leadership team and additional people to the presentation. It went extremely well. The management team did an awesome job. They tried to sit back, but I called them up at the last minute, and they did a fabulous job. So thanks, guys. In presenting it, great questions were asked, and so new information was shared that they hadn't had before. We also did a presentation to the mayor's senior management team this week. And if you go online, you can see there's like 20 plus people on his senior management team. So I did that. We had a short period of time, again, representing so that we can get a different narrative out about the PAB, and it was well received. So we're excited about that. Also had a meeting in a one-on-one sort of presentation or one-on-two presentation with Simeon Bannister, who is the president and CEO of the Rochester Area Community Foundation, and his chief of staff, Iris Bieri. So that was really good exchange as well. He said, I keep seeing things in the news and I hear things, but I want to hear directly what's going on. So I was able to share information with him on that. And he also made a suggestion that we consider telling our own story in a couple of different media outlets. And so we're going to follow up on that as well. And he shared information that he received regarding a program in Minnesota that involves youth. So we're going to do some research on that. Jean and Natalie are going to be looking at that and see if that's something we want to think about here as well. So we're getting the word out in different ways about the PAB. And yesterday I attended, and some of the other staff attended, a listening session, if you will, or community conversation at the Telesca Center down the street. And it was for what they call the Justice Infrastructure Project. It's sponsored by IOLA, which is Interest on Lawyers Account. So they're going around the state to gather information on civil, legal, and other matters in regard to community needs. So there were so many different organizations represented there, but I was glad that we were at the table too to share our information as well. They said it's something that's going to take several years to develop, but they started in Rochester and they're going to go out, and there's no specific timeline. but at least we were at the table as well. So with regard to, any questions? Oh, with regard to program updates, public affairs and community engagement, working on the protest policy information sessions. And there's a flyer that I think will be distributed before folks leave tonight. And also beginning to work on the public awareness campaign that we had last year for the spring campaign with radio ads, billboards, and on the bus and those kinds of things. And we're all very excited because an offer was made to hire somebody, a very qualified candidate, as the community engagement specialist. So we're going to do more outreach, and we're so excited about that. With regard to case management, we have 14 cases open for the month of January. And also we posted for a bilingual case manager position that is open until February 21st. Just make sure there's anybody who wants to add anything else. With regard to investigations, we have 2 investigator positions that we're in the process of that need to be filled, so we're close to doing that as well. We're also currently in discussions with regard to posting our closed case reports to the website, and we want to make sure that we can provide enough information according to the charter. And anybody, if you want to reference the charter, it's section 1811A, which talks about the monthly reports, which we do report that data. But also in that same 1811C4, it's more specific data that says that we should be able to post that to the website as well. So we're really trying to get clear on that so we can post those closings according to what the charters ask for. We also, in terms of our investigations, we need statements from officers for it to be a really full, complete investigation. So we've compelled for some statements, and that has not come to fruition. So our next step, will have to be subpoenas to try to get that information so that we can have full, complete information for the panel to review on cases. With regard to operations, a lot of that is behind the scenes. It appears to be a very light, but there's a lot of work being done with regard to preparing the budget. I know that's on your list, Larry,
yeah,
for the 24-25 season. Again, the budget is a season. And work with the board in terms of the executive search firm. That's operations system. Policy and oversight. Proud to announce the launch of the first draft proposal for change on the protest policy. Just as a reminder in terms of process, as a reminder, once a draft is published, we conduct a 30-day period of public input. Today at 4 o'clock, the first one was held. It was a virtual session. So we'll be hosting 3 other public input sessions right here in this location, February 8th, February 15th, and 22nd. And those are the flyers that we have that we'll make sure people get that too. And they all begin at 6 o'clock. So bus passes will be provided with some light refreshments for those who attend. And tonight also, we're looking to close the first oversight investigation. Oversight investigations it's a thorough examination of powers executed by the Rochester Police Department and its officers. It addresses specific subjects or aims to answer a particular question. Oversight investigation doesn't offer any recommendations, so you're not going to see that, but it may lead to a proposal for change, which you have those in front of you. And they were sent out, so I know you all have read them and excited about them. So the oversight investigations may be closing tonight that deals with the police department's use of force on juveniles, this juvenile one here. So a lot of work went into this. It's amazing. Super kudos to the staff. I can't, you know, this is my own opinion, but I can't imagine anybody would have any objection to some of the thoughts that have been shared with that report. It's really well done, so here tonight, kudos to Will. And then the policy, and this, the John's here, so he, yeah, he's ready. The policy oversight team is continuing to conduct preliminary research in some other policy areas that the board approved a year ago. So we are preparing to launch another oversight investigation toward the end of the month and working on a number of policy recommendations. So any questions?
I don't have a question, but it's not pertaining to that. Go back to when you saying that during the, people can come down here and voice their opinion.
Yes.
Okay, the address wasn't really said. You know, for the
Oh,
people
yes.
that's watching.
245, thank you.
Okay, all right.
Thank you very much, good point. 245 East Main Street, across from what used to be Sibley's on the corner of Main and Clinton. So thank you very
Thank
much,
you.
good point. Do you want to add anything, John?
No, I wait till the end of the night.
Okay. So that's my report.
Any questions for Sherry? All right, thank you, Sherry. Good stuff going on. So the chair's report. I'll start off again. We're past a year now with our opening for the East District seat. Still has not been filled by council. So as I said last meeting, if you live in the East District, if you're watching, if you know somebody that lives in the East District of the city of Rochester, if you're not sure if you're in the East District, you can call the Board of Elections and they'll tell you what city council district you're in. But we do need an appointee from city council for that seat. I did follow up with the council member that represents that area. She's, re-engaged in that process. I did talk to the president of city council about the council is way past the statutory deadline of getting that seat filled. The Alliance, when they've had openings, have always got their names in to give an opportunity to get people in within the time frame for those 4 seats. But we've had an issue with the council seats, and this one is still open and needs to be filled. Also, in regards to, be more over this over the next couple of months with the budget, and we did have an initial meeting with city council staff about that. There are going to be more. We're asking for more than we got last year. With additional positions and all throughout the agency. And one thing that I think has to be clear when we're talking to council, and the community and allies are talking to council is, we're still starting. This is still, really going into our 3rd year of being, fully operational. And the funding that is needed is very clear in the charter and what we're supposed to do. And, as of now, we don't have all the staff that is necessary to do the actions that people voted on. There's a certain amount of time frame that has to be turned around in cases, 90 days. There's a certain amount of access to data that we're supposed to get that we're not getting, which has slowed that down. And there's a certain amount of community outreach that we're supposed to do. And along with a lot of other things that people voted on. So having all those positions filled that we're requesting and is really important to do the work, and realizing that we're still growing. And this is not a time to stay stagnant with our staffing and with our budget. And we're not wasting money here at all. Everybody that is hired has their duties that they're working on. We went to a conference, but the one conference we all went to that was far was NACO, which is the premier organization that supports our work. We've had staff that have gone to conferences to help them in their duties, and all that's geared directly back to the people. And so as we go back to this budget process, we encourage people to go down to council to support us and the funding increases that we're asking for. Questions on that? Yeah.
We had a very helpful and very comprehensive training about 2 weeks ago about the duty of investigators. And I wonder if we could make that available to the city council, because first, I'm not sure they're aware of how complicated and comprehensive the investigations are. but I also feel that the training suffers and the fact that the investigators are not to be presumptive, that they to be unbiased, they're to take their specific steps to make sure that they're gathering information without any bias about what it can or should be. And I think that would be helpful for the city council to understand that the path is not here to go out and get those bad guys because we know they're bad. That's not our purpose. It's not what we do.
Yeah. I think part of when we're doing that, when we're doing the explanation of why we need positions, you know, the council can ask questions and there's detail that we can give about the complexity of the roles, especially with the investigators. I mean, like, for example, there's nearly a year's worth of body cam footage they have to get through, and they can't just rush through that. That takes a lot of time and energy and effort to do that research and to go through that emotionally and also just doing the research with the job. And I don't know if they have a full understanding of that. I mean, that's something we can remind them, we could talk to them about. You can't have, you know, our city workers and other places aren't supposed to do the job with 2 or 3 people. That shouldn't be the case here. And the complexity of our work is a lot different than other places in government. And yeah, maybe reiterating that and figuring out a way to make sure council understands that, I think is appropriate and would be helpful, I think.
Oh, I got, like a suggestion, I don't know, but is there any way that we can make it public? You know, I'm trying to encourage, okay, the council people to have a meeting with all the council people, all right? And then they all have to agree on the budget, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm making it public that we would need all the council people and the mayor, whoever it takes, to get this budget changed so that we can be effective and do what we're supposed to do. So that's what I'm saying. I'm suggesting that I'll write them a letter. I don't know what we need to do. They need to get on their job, okay, and do what they're supposed to do. Okay, and I am a representative of the council seat, and I'm putting that out there because I just think we got enough blocks, okay, from the other people.
Yeah.
And we really don't need any more blocks from the council seats and the mayor and anybody else. We need to get this thing together so that we can do what it is that we're supposed to do, because it's basically frustrating, okay? And it's not really political. It's supposed to be community orientated, and they are our council members and the mayor of the community and the chief of police and everybody else. Whatever needs to be done, we need to be able to meet with them so that we can get this ball rolling, okay? That's my suggestion. I don't know how we're gonna do it, but they can, you know.
There's a lot that we can do. I think first individually as board members, especially us that are appointees, talking to the individual council members that appointed us. There's a whole public campaign we can do. We have the PABA Alliance that can help us with that
Okay.
on our own individually, but also there's.
I'm not talking about individual council people meeting. I'm talking about the whole city council meeting at one time with us. Okay, privately, of how we want to do it, publicly, so that we can get the funds, the budget, so they'll know that we need the monies, okay, to do what we need to do.
Well,
I just saying the game is over for me. That's all.
They've invited us out. I mean, they've invited us out for work sessions before. We go down to council and kind of present.
The whole board?
We're all invited. Yeah, staff does a presentation, but we can all go and support and put our 2 cents in too.
And are they all gonna be there? That's the point.
They're all invited. I mean, it's who comes, you know, and obviously they're all there at the council meetings. We can always go down there. And I've gone before during council meetings and they're all there. But there's a whole process even before they get in front of everybody and make those decisions. If you talk a little about Sherry, I mean, it's in the weeds a bit. No, but just so you understand about what we have to give to the city to justify our budget and that little back and forth. Can you just talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, there are multiple forms that have to be filled out and they have to be justified. If any changes that we want to make, we have to justify all those. And we can do that. I mean, we'll put those in and then they're reviewed. What Larry's talking about is, well, one thing is we have a liaison who is our council member, Kim Smith. We met with her several times last year in preparing the budget.
But she ain't did nothing, right?
No, I didn't say that.
Oh, no, I'm asking a question.
No,
Okay.
she really helped us put together the presentation and the questions that were asked. So that we asked for, as Larry talked about, a meeting with the committee prior to the budget hearing and explained in detail a lot of the information because they just didn't understand either. That went over extremely well. We want to do that. Also, I'm hearing from you, I think that's not either or. I think it's both and. It's not only all together, but it is individual conversations. The budget is due on the 16th of February. And so there'll be different kinds of meetings going on after that. So once we have that, we'll make sure that you have copies of it, I think. Is that appropriate? I'm looking at Roosevelt. I think we're going to have copies of the proposed budget or the org chart. Yeah, so the organizational chart, you'll have a copy of that, so you'll know what we're asking for.
Just for clarification, my understanding, the budget comes from the mayor's office, correct? And then the council votes on it. In other words, the council members are not the ones constructing the budget. The mayor's office is the one constructing
Oh,
the
okay.
budget.
But
Is
remember,
that correct?
well, overall, but remember, we're part of council. We're under
Right,
council, so we're
The
talking
mayor's
to,
over the
But what I'm
council.
saying is that the February
quick,
16th, and now, the
That's not
February
the vote.
16th.
That's not the vote.
No, I understand. But what I'm saying is that what comes out February 16th comes from the mayor's office, so we can talk to council members all we want before then, but they're not creating that initial document.
well, but for the council part, I mean, the mayor doesn't
Right.
create our budget. We do that, and
I
we work for council.
understand. and it's
Because
just-
remember, we're not, the mayor isn't going to be like, we're not talking to the mayor's office about what we're doing. We're talking to council about what
Okay.
we're presenting. Other
But
departments
what
go
comes out
directly to.
February 16th is still going to come out from the mayor's office, right?
It comes from us. We're submitting that.
Okay.
We are the ones creating and submitting that budget, and it's due on the 16th.
So has it already
Okay.
been submitted?
No, it's not due till the 16th. We're still working on it. 16th of February.
Okay,
Thank you, I'm
so,
sorry.
okay, so the 16th of February, which is this month, the day the 1st of February, right?
Yeah, 2 weeks.
Our budget need to be in front of the council or in front of the mayor?
No. It goes to the staff first. So the whole process, it goes through the staff and goes through those.
Our staff or their staff?
Their staff.
Okay, it goes to their staff, the council staff first.
The administrative staff and some council members may be involved in looking at it as well. At least last year this may be different, but last year.
All right, so when the deadline for the budget to be passed?
It's in May.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, so
That's
it's in May, because,
Yes.
okay, so
Yes.
February 16th is
I
not,
know, it sounds, yeah.
okay, so May.
Yeah. That's the
is
budget
due. So we
hearing.
got until now, until April, I'll say,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
To talk to the city, the councils and whoever we need to talk to.
Yes.
So we can get the budget passed. And I'm just saying, I mean, ASAP, because it's very important, right? So that we can accomplish what we need to accomplish. That's the point. I'm trying to put no blame on nobody. We're supposed to be a team, okay? We're all supposed to be trying to do the same thing to get this stuff situated so that our community is going to be safe, okay? And also get a rapport with the police department, okay? That's just my point of view. So-
Yeah, so the budget hearings are held in May. So there is time to talk to people and say, once we have the organizational chart out with what we're asking for, we can share that.
Okay.
I'm looking at you, share.
Who we gonna share it with though?
We'll share it with you, so you can share it with people who you want to talk to in terms of your council members.
Okay, all right. I just wanted to get moving.
Oh, it's
I don't need it to
moving.
be shared
Yeah.
with me, okay, or the
Yes.
people out there in the
Yes.
community. I want the people who gotta agree to it, to do what they gotta do, that's all.
Right.
And we need to make sure we educate people that are going to help activate them
Right.
and put pressure on them to know also.
But one of the best things that we can do is, once we get the chart, is to familiarize ourselves with it and share the information as well as the inside information as to the work that's being done with members of the community, with individuals on the council and anybody else. This is the work, this is what's needed, and this is why.
Correct.
Because we're all, as you said, we're all on the same page. We want a safer community. And the more educated the community is about the work that we're doing and how important it is. This is so necessary, and we see it more and more every day. And it's not a gotcha as far as the police are concerned. We're all on the same team. We want policies and things in place that help us all move forward to a safer community in Rochester.
Amen.
Thank you for that. Next question. Any other questions on that? Like also, council did pass RFP for our new executive director, so that firm has been hired. Yay. We're gonna be talking with them soon, and they will be, doing in person. They'll be coming here too, to the community and to the office and to places outside of the office to talk with folks about what we are looking for in an executive director. Really happy about that. I'd be sad to lose Sherry, but she is gonna help us with that process, and that is ongoing now. And really excited about that. Really excited about that. Any other questions for that before we move on? All right, committee reports. Training committee, we did have our good training a couple weeks ago from NACO, like Mary had mentioned. And I know we have more that have been planned. I know there's a training director that's going to be hopefully starting at some point soon. That's going to help even more with staff in our training. But we do have a lot of training that we want to get done this year. And, we had a better relationship, I think, or a close relationship with NACO this year to get through some of that training and formalizing that process more.
Is there going to be a specific training person hired to make sure that staff as well as the board is trained?
Yeah, that's
and
a job that's out there.
Everything that we need so that we're all on the same page?
Yes.
Okay, so it'll be a whole lot smoother than it has been?
Yes. I guess we could probably take search committee off, but we don't need that anymore. Yeah. All right, anything from old business?
So I was gonna say, we will want to obviously provide updates on what's happening.
Oh, yeah. Definitely. And actually, some of that, maybe even before next board meeting, that'll be on the website if we've got, public things are going to be happening. So that definitely keep an eye on the website if it's before a board meeting that we can announce that. All right, new business.
Yes. Here comes to John. Talk through this. John Hall is the Director of Policy and Oversight.
Good evening, everyone.
Great evening.
So tonight, we are looking to close our very first oversight investigation. I think Sherry gave a pretty succinct definition of what these are. This one is on juvenile use of force or use of force against juveniles by police department officers. We're here to vote to close, hopefully, this report. And we'll be publishing this report at the end of the month after we get some additional translation efforts and grammatical and syntax corrections. And now you all had pretty much a week to review. I'm here to answer any questions about the substance of the report.
I don't have.
Well, let's just go around them, so we all have
But if you
substance.
could bear with me, I've been thinking about this issue. And the draft policy discusses, the fear of law enforcement of children and youth of color. I think it's more than this. I'm going to connect several threads. When we see the articles about schools, there are often comments about the charter schools and the schools outside of the city hub who don't want those inner city kids going to their school. There's a presumption of guilt, a presumption of negativity. And related to that, I think this fitting in the police, I'm not sure where it turned. I think it's going both ways. But the other thing that I've forgotten about 2 years ago, I belonged to a group that I've since disconnected from. It was a group led by Claude and former Monroe County Sheriff Department. And someone posted a video of a girl, I would say she was 15 or 16 years old, an American girl, who went into a convenience store. She was upset from the minute she went in. She was yelling, and when the clerk tried to intervene, she started throwing things, and she hit the clerk. And then it ended. Then the comments were from the coroner and former sheriff. I would have popped her so hard she would not have been able to stand for a week. Or I would have knocked her on her butt. There were a whole string of comments like that. And I finally commented, I'm concerned that no one seemed to think it's worthwhile to sit down with her and try to find out what she's upset about. She came in the store and she was already upset. And one of the person said, thank you, Miss Weinbach, I was waiting for someone to come. The others were like, oh, give me a break. So I think it's more than a fear. It's a presumption of guilt, a presumption of negativity, and to some extent it's in the community, and it's in the police. I'm told that many of our police don't live in Rochester. They live outside of Rochester. I was not happy, but I did feel a little bit redeemed when there were issues up there on the court forth and some of the military schools that demonstrated it's not just the inner city kids that have problems. So I just wanted to consider that. I don't want to take all the police out just to college, but that there is a threat of presumption when they approach a family of color and kids of color.
Thank you.
Daniel?
Yes, I want to just give kudos to the oversight team, and I know this is probably the tip of the iceberg because a lot of information could have been thoroughly looked through by the RPD is really just and whatever obstacle and barrier that may seem. So this is a good snapshot for folks to understand like how much change that can really be implemented. But it's unfortunate that like we could have gotten so much more out of the investigation if they just gave us the information they were looking for, And also the map, the incident map was great as well. I really you really get to get a visual of like where the incident is actually occurring, the zip code where it's happening. I hope people can take a second thought when they realize like this is happening and just ironically happening in areas that but not in areas where it's not happening. That's what stood out. Not where it was happening. It says, so this incident, this little section here doesn't have incidents. But overall, I appreciate taking the chance of stepping up and doing something like this. It was really, it was a learning curve right there.
Thank you. I really just once again want to give kudos to Will who did a lot of the work, almost all of the work on this report, closing our very first site investigation. He also created that interactive map. Once again, when we publish this for the public at the end of the month, everyone will have access to that map and be able to look through the zip codes and all the other demographic data to see what exactly is happening. Thank you, Will. Thank you.
Okay. I think it was well put together. I do have questions like the statistics. Where did they come from? Did they actually come from the people in the community? Did they come from the county? Did they come from the state? I'm just saying, where did the information actually come from?
Rochester Police Department.
Oh, Rochester Police Department.
That's correct.
Okay. All right. So y'all can get that, and we can. Okay, never mind. But so I think it's great. But another thing, what's the process? How long, is it going to take to implement? It's great that we're starting, but Do you have any idea how long, the next week, next month, next year?
Implement.
What they need to, after we, what they need to do to the, to when they arrest juveniles or go to juvenile homes, okay, to keep the trauma down, which is, excellent. But, is there some type of, I don't know, coalition or, I'm just saying with the parents or with something like that, whatever. I know with the police board, but the parents need to be also, to me, involved, okay? Because like I said, some of the parents are actually doing things that are wrong. The kids are also seeing that. Then when the children come, the police come, right? So we're trying to get the process for the police department to understand that when they approach that type of situation, right? It's not the child that committed the crime, okay? So they need to teach, so that's what we're doing, correct? In the process?
Yeah, so RPD has rolled out, I believe it's 3 general orders since the incident on Hare Street. 338, which is the one that we're looking at, particularly in this oversight investigation, and we briefly mentioned the 2 others, which will correct me if I'm wrong, it's 435 and 437, correct? We touch on some of the things that you're speaking, they touch on some of the things that you're speaking about here tonight. One of the things that we emphasize in almost all of our work is the need for a collaborative effort, so that RPD should always look to include community when creating new policies. It's something we stress in our data transparency proposal for change. Is something that we sort of hinted at with right to know. And we're continuing that theme now, both in our protest policy proposal for change, which we announced today, and we briefly mentioned the need for that collaborative effort here. RPD creates our general orders through their R&E department. I'm not fully versed on whether they have their own public input process, but that is something that we will continue to do. And we hope that as you all have read this and formulate thoughts on what solutions or changes might need to go into their juvenile use of force policies. I know we've received some recommendations from board member Mary Wambach so far. We're going to take a look at every proposal. We're going to do a comparative analysis by looking at other policies at other departments around the nation, make recommendations, and then go through that collaborative public input process that we're so used to.
All right, well, in other words, they say kudos.
I have a bunch of questions. I'm just going to do 2, then let everybody else go, then I might ask more. Where we are on time. It's the first, that overall really good work. But at the beginning, under drafting our PD policies and training, it mentions when, page 8, sorry, page 8. They mentioned the independent third-party consulting firm that conducted an audit of the department's policies, procedures, training programs, with the goal of aligning our efforts with current federal and state law, national best practices, relevant legal considerations related to federal civil rights investigations, and police department consent decrees adopted by federal courts. Did we ask for, do we have a copy of that?
We submitted an SOI, I want to say it was last April, requesting any written material related to the drafting and creation of 338. We were not provided the name of the consultant, only an email that indicated that they consulted.
So we didn't get a copy of the audit.
No.
Basically, that email was the only thing that was provided to us. That single email that you're reading right there.
And so presumably that's not available to the public?
That's correct. It should be
So
foilable.
it's paid for by the
Yeah,
taxpayers,
paid for.
but not available.
Just getting to that.
Okay.
It should be something that is both foilable and should be found in the minutes with city council, because they should have voted to approve whatever funding if they didn't have.
Well, the funding, the one thing is the report itself,
Yeah.
which we paid for, we can't read.
No, not to much, but it should be foilable.
And it's a record they have, so something we should have access to just
That's
by
right.
asking too.
Okay.
Again, so there's gray spots in the report because of the lack of data, and that that could have been something that could have been helpful, not based off the author, but because of the lack of access. A bunch of other things I have, but I guess next one on page 15 for technique inventory. This the other, or, what would, the takedown, the breaking down of different kind of takedowns that were used. And, and the most, the technique frequency, and there's a couple, there's one where the other is, 30% technique frequency, and then, another breakdown where it's, 50, it's 51. Do we have any idea what other could be? Because the others are kind of pretty descriptive. So I'm not sure what, and it's a high number. One or two, maybe it's something like odd, but 51 just seemed kind of odd, high number for not having a clarity on what that technique was used. But do you have suggestions or thoughts and guesses about what those other could be?
I do not, but I'm going to turn to Will.
Or he
I don't
specified
want
he
to
didn't
speculate.
know.
Okay.
What
And then
provided to me was a copy of the DCJS manual, so the State Department of Criminal Justice Services. So the agency the state that mandates and that provides a lot of training related to these techniques. And that also is a full book sized document. It's thick and it doesn't contain a definition.
So no, we were not provided any definition for the others, but I will point out that at the very end of the report, we do through the glossary that sort of describes some of the terms that are mentioned in this section.
And then it's maybe just wanted this question. The lack of being able to see body cam footage, especially because obviously we're not investigating these cases to policy. They're just trying to look at patterns and procedures and look for. But part of the charter and part of the access to information is not just for an investigation, but also to look at broader themes. So not being able to access body cam footage for the time period that you wanted to do this investigation over, and then not getting full access even to everything that you wanted in the timeframes they gave, to talk about how that limited you being able to do, or the staff being able to do this report.
Yeah, so it's important to first mention that the only thing we were provided was subject resistance reports, which is the written report that's usually created after an incident occurs by each individual officers. That's the only thing we have to rely on in terms of getting a fair, or rather an account of what occurred, other than potential witness statements. One of the things we look to do in our efforts to be thorough is to ensure that the actual footage, the sounds match the descriptions written by the officers. We can't even do that level of analysis because we're not allowed or afforded the opportunity to review the body worn camera from those instances. So it's really hard for us to sort of vouch for the truthfulness of what's written in those reports. So that's the biggest impact, I think. Second thing is, we were really hoping to look at not just instances where we think improvement could be made by officers, but instances where officers did a really good job of handling juveniles. And again, we wanted to have footage to look at to say, this is something that should be exemplified, and perhaps other officers should be trained on, but we were not provided that opportunity. So.
Thanks.
I'm glad you mentioned that because the word on the street seems to be that the officers think that we're a gotcha organization and that we're just looking for non-positive things. This report really is heartbreaking, and it will bring a tear to the eyes of the community when they see how the young people are handled, the takedown, some of what appears to be a vicious way of handling a child. Knee in the back, thrown to the floor, handcuffed. We're talking children. And yes, some children are bigger than others and all of that, but we also find that the majority of the children that are being subjected to these things are in the same zip code. That's heartbreaking. And there has to be a better way of handling children, of allowing children to be able to see violence. The first thing, if there's a stop by a police officer and he comes up with the guns drawn and there are children in the car, that's traumatizing. So this report points out the fact that some additional policies need to be in place. I also noticed that there was a request for information further back than what you have now. So we say, okay, this policy was put in place at such and such a time. What happened prior to this policy? And is this policy actually working? That's simple enough. Everybody ought to want to know what works and what doesn't. We just need more cooperation. And it should not take another Harris Street incident where the 9-year-old got sitting in the back of a police car, got sprayed with a chemical. And it went nationwide before anybody decides that we are not treating children well when we're dealing with juveniles when it comes to law enforcement. And one thing I know, you cannot legislate the heart. At some point, there needs to be a way to get people to look at people of color, children of color, as human beings and not just as a problem. Brett?
I'm going to dovetail off of that, and the question that I shared with the board was, what makes brown and black children so frightening? And I look at this as a systemic issue that is not just law enforcement based, but starts from the home, the community, and the schools. And I'll give you an example. The denomination that I belong to did a video, and it highlighted some of the things in Rochester that had been, to my mind, as serious as some of the things I saw in the Board of Education when I taught in New York City. And they were able to get past some things. And I'm wondering what in our system is causing us to see something as wrong, but we are in some way willing to not ask the deep questions, or better yet, to make the statement enough.
So I'll join in thanking your team
Yes.
for this report. I would like to think actually that the PAB had something to do with the change, at least the RPD feeling they had to develop a policy, since we did respond at the time of the Harris Street incident, and even more so the community definitely responded. And I hope that in part they were responding to that. I also really want to emphasize, because I think you've been sort of very kind in your report about this, but the extent to which the lack of access to the information that we are legally required to get impedes the work that we're not just doing this for ourselves, we're doing this for the community. And I feel that, the language use we talk about are about PAB having access to things, but really what we're talking about is the community having access to things. This is for the citizens of Rochester. We fund the police department, right? We fund these studies, we do all this. We should be able to see the result of that work and to be able to see what we need to know to do the work of the accountability board. But we're not doing this for our own sake. We do this because we represent the citizens. And so I really want us to sort of start, in a sense, having to come to that language. We're not asking for access for the PAB, we're actually asking for access for the citizens of Rochester. And I think you did an amazing job given the obstacles that have been presented. And it also makes me realize, how significant it is that even, from what you're able to find, that we're able to sort of see these patterns and to look at that way. And I really look forward to hearing community responses and, really discussing some program for, how we go about implementing the changes we know need to happen. So thank you very much. I had one other question, which I will look at the page. Actually, I also just wanted to say the thing about back to the, maybe we can find it through city council minutes, but, you know, who was hired and how much was spent on that. I think, again, as citizens, we have a right to know that. I'm sorry, I sent you an email about,
Yeah.
and now I've lost track of it. Hold on 1 second. Here we go. It won't open. All right, if we want to go around, then I'll come back to it when I can open
I'm gonna
it.
pull it up. Ryan?
Go ahead.
Oh, here we go. The other question I had was about, whether you're able to compare best practices, compare RPD policy to what's done in other places, or academic research or whatever. Yeah.
Right. So that's something we tend to do when we compose our proposals for change, which is our policy recommendations. We did not conduct that level of analysis here. We were really just looking to see the effectiveness of 338. So as I mentioned earlier, any ideas or policy recommendations that this board wants us to look into, again, we've already received some great recommendations from board member Wambach. We will be conducting that level of analysis in that proposal for change.
Yes, sir.
I want to make a comparison to another field. I worked in domestic violence, sexual assault prevention for years. And this was back the year 1999. It was still considered new. And at that time, to some extent now, it was very difficult to work with men because there was a prevailing attitude of she asked for it. Why was she wearing those clothes? Why was she out at night? And what we found at the time was that working with some men, and I'm not talking about all men, when working with some men, the only way to engage them is to make it personal, to talk about their daughters, their wives, their grandchildren. And then, when you said to them, if your daughter, if this happened to her, did she deserve that? Because she was wearing a short skirt. And men started to get more involved. I think we need to find a similar key to get the larger community involved in the issue of force against children. I wish we could make a PSA. Because I worked in the performance arts, so sometimes that takes over. I'm thinking of a PSA that shows the police conversion in a situation with a child. You can't see the child's face or gender or race, but you can hear the voice. And the police are not doing too well till somebody steps in. And the question is, what would you do if this were your child? How would you feel? So that anybody could relate to it. It's not about child, it's Latino or Asian or African American. I think it's gonna take something like this for some people to realize that the otherness should become worse than 6 years of my opinion. People who say, and what, there's me and my stuff and you and your stuff. We need to find something to recreate a unity and a sense of protection that people should feel for anybody's child, regardless of their characteristics. So if anybody wants to look at me, I number 4.
I have one last question, and it's kind of coming off what Rabbi Settle was saying. Stole a bit of my thunder, but it's okay. Great minds thinking alike. Just on page 11 of the report, we kind of go into the initial ask, which was really from data from January 1st, 2018. And they, limited it. RPD made the decision, and Corporation Council to limit it, what we had access to. But there's a line in here, RPD, couple lines. RPD determined the scope of this oversight investigation with its refusal to provide requested information in its totality. Beyond stating this should be the scope of the investigation, RPD did not provide any rationale for limiting the window of review. How the Corporation Council backed them up. So and this is also a problem we have when we're doing our investigations. When our investigations division is looking at misconduct cases. We're independent. We have to have oversight. If the person or agency that you're having oversight over is dictating the terms and conditions of what you can look at, that's not what people voted for. And it's pretty clear. I mean, I would love when if I got in trouble and my mom was like, "What were you doing?" I'm like, "The only can answer I did the last 5 minutes," and you can't look past what happened 15 minutes ago. That doesn't work. So I think it's, maybe I would make this, maybe that should be in bold or maybe at the end of the report, just so it catches people that may, get caught in the methodology and data and not realize the glaring red light there that was put in front of our work. But I just want people to understand that you can't have the people that you're doing oversight over dictate the terms and conditions of what that oversight is. And that's just a clear example of that. It happens in it happens in other work of the agency. And again, that's something that, we'll be talking with council about again. And there's ongoing talk from, our legal folks in regards to that. But this is kind of glaring on people. I just want to put a spotlight on that.
I'm going like in another direction. Maybe y'all might not even like this. But it's good that we are giving suggestions to the police department on how to take care of juveniles or do things in front of juveniles. But when I asked the question before about collaboration, I believe too that some kind of way the parents of these children, okay, need to have some type of collaboration with the police department. And I know that's not our thing, but children need to also be trained to respect themselves. All right. So my point I'm trying to make is some kind of way, all police are not bad. All children are not bad. Okay. All black children are not bad. But they need to have, along with the police people, to also learn to respect themselves. Okay. And to not be, they're traumatized. All right. We give them the excuse. But why are they traumatized? All right, and before the police even get there, why are they so? I drove school bus, so I used to drop off kids at Hart Street, okay, where you get kicked out of school, you go there, and I've actually saw police officers come there because the teachers called them, but the children come out kicking, screaming, hitting them and all kind of stuff. So I guess what I'm trying to say, right? Is there some type of, of course they're trained to defend themselves. And both people are defending themselves. So what is it that we could, as the PA board or City of Rochester, the community, the United States of America, the world, right? What can we do to breach that gap? There's a gap there, all right? And it's not, and I'm sorry to say, I'm not pro anything. I'm pro right. So therefore, to get this thing really right, we can't just put everything, on the police department, right? They are held accountable because they're doing their job. Yes, they need to be corrected on how they do their job and how to treat people, period. Okay, but on the flip side of that, we also need to have, there's got to be some kind of respect between everybody. That's what I'm saying. So is there anything that we can write in this thing here that could help that, to get the parents involved and the people involved, so that they won't have a red flag or see all police officers as being bad, just like what you were saying. That bothers me.
First, I want to say I don't think you need to apologize.
Oh, I'm just saying.
I think we all are in agreement that bridges need to be built within this community. And sort of like what I hinted at earlier, when we start to compose the proposals for change that come from this research around juvenile use of force, we will be looking to create a stronger collaborative effort that will include public input from those key stakeholders that you mentioned.
Okay. Joe, and then Mary. Yeah.
I also, sort of following up with what Ms. Wilson was saying, that it's for the sake of the department too, right? I'm sure the police officers don't go out and say, gee, I want to traumatize the kids today, right? And presumably they also want policies that also are clear. I mean, part of what you pointed out is that there's a lack of clarity about, in a lot of these things. And so it can only be to the benefit of police officers themselves if these policies are, if more is done with them so that clarity is there, for sure.
Mary?
I grew up in the 1960s in a very small town, Ontario, New York. And so many things have changed back then. A police officer would go to the school once a year and he would tell the students how the police is your friend, blah, blah, blah. And many things have changed. What I wish is that someone, a neutral person, could go out and get input from kids. What are your biggest concerns right now? Because it might be this creepy guy that always hangs out at this store where I have to go and get food. It might be the people next door talking about guns. It might be cars speeding down my road and I'm afraid I'm going to get hit. I think it would help the police understand what kids and children worry about these days and why they're so afraid and why some of them. Because kids don't have control over their lives or where they live or who lives near them or what happens. The area I live on in the summer, there's open prostitution. There's open drinking. People have taken films of the police laughing and talking with the prostitute. If there's open theft, people running down the street with things that they stole. I can't imagine being a child and living through that and having to walk back and forth to school. Because that's the rule. If you live within a certain distance from the school, you have to walk. It's not safe. If I were a kid, I would be scared and I would be angry.
And one of the things that we haven't mentioned also is the help from the PIC team and others who work with mental health and stress. I just want to take a moment. Officers found a 14-year-old child. Whoops. Okay. It took a bunch of them to take him
I was
down.
going to say what page.
Oh, what page? I thought he was telling me. No, we're on page 18. Page 18. Officers found the 14-year-old child cutting himself outside a home and reported the child was screaming while attempting to gain entry into the house. The child claimed they had been attacked inside and was demanding their cell phone. Officers handcuffed the child while using wrist lock to lower the teen to the floor. They resisted. Officers stated and complained. Officers stated, the child complained of difficulty of breathing. That resulted in officers immediately repositioning themselves. The child was taken to the hospital via ambulance. All of that, traumatic, but clearly there was something off with the child to begin with. We have to find a way to approach people to realize what their state of mind is. And police officers aren't trained for right now. They're not trained to observe that. But in this day and time, it has to be taken into consideration. When you go down the file, at least 7 officers were involved in handcuffing and restraining a 14-year-old. That's a lot.
Before we vote, anything else that you want to add?
I just want to recall the memory of Dr. Robert Harrison III, for whom this was a really essential issue. And I'm sorry he's not here to see us pass this, but I'm thinking about him tonight.
Yes.
Thank you, George.
Good. Yes.
Right, motion? I make the motion?
Sure. Make a motion to approve.
One second. All right, all in favor?
Oh,
And again, kudos to the whole team for all of this work. They worked on this for over a year, making sure all of this data was put together. This was not an overnight thing, and we thank you for your diligence.
All right, I'm going to make a motion to go to executive session to discuss subpoenas and personnel matters.
Yes, no, right?
Vote now or
Who's
vote in
seconding
executive
it?
session?
We did?
No, we have to vote on the second one.
Oh, yeah, so, what was that, favor? Yeah, okay. Aye. Answer that part. All right.
Should beat you to the punch.
I'm appointing myself part
I think you're taking.
So we going, all these subpoenas, we gotta vote on.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Oh, you had this too.
All right, we are back from executive session. Anybody that is still watching, thank you for your patience. We did take one vote on a legal matter in regards to subpoenas. That vote passed unanimously, 5-0. There were no other votes taken in executive session. Motion to adjourn.
Let's hope.
All right, all in favor?
Except we don't have a quorum.
Oh, because we started off. Sorry. All right, thank you, everybody. Have a good night.
And good night. We need to